Hi, Sally. How are you?
Hello.
Hello, how do you? All right. Is that on? Is that on? Where's Jess?
How's it going, Bill? How are you?
Good. Good. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you.
Well, it's good to still see you.
I'm an idiot with this stuff.
Hey, Will, is Jed back there? Hold on, guys.
You don't want me to help you. If you really feel that.
The basics.
Well, we're like to kind of turn it off and turn it on. Yeah. Solves everything.
I should ask you, Will. Hello. All right.
Go.
Yay, Jet.
Woohoo, yeah.
Thank the sound guy here. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming to the Sugar House Community Council meeting tonight. Does everybody have chairs? Okay. So we're going to get started. He has a sick child, so I'm going to bring up a school board member to talk about Emerson Elementary and where we're at in that process of school closure. So please be nice. Come on up, Mohammed.
Don't worry about it.
He's great.
I know a lot of faces out here. First of all, I did not know about this place here. This is amazing, by the way. Just there you go. My name is Mohammed Bey. I'm a school board member for Salt Lake City, Precinct 5. And as you all have heard, there are so many schools out there in my precinct that have been placed on a chopping block, sadly to say. Why? I have no idea. Is it because I'm Mohammed? Probably, Got 3 schools in my precinct. They're just like out there, the most out of all the schools. But it's all right, So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. Actually, by the way, I really like the ambience here. So I'm saying right now, forget about my sick kid, I can be there for a bit. The smell of coffee is so good. And yeah, okay. All right. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Mohammed. I'm originally from Morocco. Any one of you here been to Morocco before? 2 or 3. Okay, that's good. Not bad. All right. I've came to America, of course, chasing the American dream. Never occurred to me that one day I'll be running for an office and be elected to represent a community. And that has been such a wonderful experience for me, and not only for me, but also for my parents who are still back home in Morocco, and they are illiterate. They can't read or write, but my father always focused on making sure that I go ahead and gain an education. Because to him, if he was educated, he would have gone far in his life. But instead, he was a slave, and he is still alive. And if I am not here, or if I have not been here, I would not have been able to see him free, walking with his head high down the street and pointing and showing me the place where he used to sleep with the other 20 slaves. And so that's what pushed me into running for the office, especially about education. We have an amazing education system. Is it perfect? No. Trust me, it is 1000% better than what I grew up with. Absolutely better than what I grew up with. However, as I find myself in the system, I start to see so many things that actually our education could do better in making sure that our kids are receiving the best education possible. Why? Because we live in one of the most educated country, because we live in a country that leads the world in inventions, and you name it. Is it a perfect system we have here? No. I hear so many people saying, well, the school system is screwed up. And let me tell you what, it is not screwed up. Why? The system actually is doing exactly what it's designed to do. So what is screwed up is actually the history that led the system to be what it is right now, in the time when we are pushing for equity, in the time when we are pushing for transparency, in the time when we are pushing to make sure that these kids are receiving equal and quality education. So that's personally what I'm seeing here. So you all have heard, 3 schools in my precinct. It is Emerson, Hawthorne, and Riley. Those are in precinct 5. If you take those 3 schools and you add Benyon, then it looks like someone came, as I said yesterday night, like building a Berlin Wall that separates the haves and has not. And that is not right. We are not here to build a new red line within our education system. I am an outspoken person. Please ask the board, they'll tell you. I don't care if I'm the only lonesome voice that will say something that is different, because when I ran for office, I promised the community that I am not going to be there for a status quo, but rather to bring to the attention of the community the things that need to be changed. Do I see that it is fair with all the 7 schools that are being listed in there? Absolutely do not see it to be fair. Why? The precinct has 40 plus schools. 27 of them are elementaries. We have a precinct, we have 7 precincts in this district. And so why am I seeing only a certain precinct have schools assigned to be on a chopping block and not the other precincts? Precinct 6 and 7, they don't have any schools. These are precincts that are like east of 1300. And also there is one precinct, and that's precinct of Geneseo, and that's a little bit further west. And that's another one that I'm wondering, why isn't there any school in the chopping block as well? If I am talking about equity, let's start from a geographical distribution, from a geographical view of how our schools are done. Our district, we should be actually, personally, I think we could do better when it comes to equity. We hired a great superintendent. She has a national and local and international experience. She has been a wonderful listener. I sat down with her multiple times and pointed to her the map that the community has given us and showing exactly where we have the issue. And guess what? She told me she is so impressed with how outspoken is Emerson community. And not only that, outspoken, but also all the emails that are coming in, they are like very well designed, very well informed. They provide data. They really did research. And so to me, I am the only person out there who dissented yesterday because I did not want to move the list to go to, further study. I personally see it that if I move the list to go for further study, and then comes January, we will have to vote. And if we do not vote for those schools to move forward, that is the only time we can go ahead and add more schools to the list. And for me, I say, that's another method of wasting taxpayers' money. Why don't I just put these schools right now and say, no, I am not moving these schools. And these schools here, I'd like to see schools from all precincts, and let's go ahead and restart the process. That's how I see it. But again, one voice against 6 is hard. But what warmed my heart is being out there yesterday and seeing families, parents, grandparents with signs. And to me, that's what brings the change. I might be the lonely voice who will say, no, I do not want to see it this way. I might be the only voice that will say, yes, there is a policy, but a policy, if it is designed to continue to split our district, then that policy needs an adjustment. There might be, a status quo of this is how things being done. That's not what I'm there for. I am losing sleep. Yes, absolutely. Trust me, my wife can tell you. And since I ran for school board, I started growing bags under my eyes. If I go shopping, I could just use it. I don't need it anymore. It has been a very challenging process indeed. But you know what? I am very proud and very happy to be in that position and continue to push for a better schooling system and a better and equitable geographical division of our schools in our precinct. Why do we still have a school with the name Indian Hills? We live in Salt Lake City. Very liberal, very well educated, the capital of the state. And yet, we never took it upon ourselves to go and talk to Native Americans and ask them, what do they think about that name? Has anyone ever brought it up? No. But you know what? Was I afraid to bring it up? Absolutely not. What's going to happen? Take away my citizenship? I have another one. It'll be fine. Seriously, life is short. And if I were to leave one thing in this world is to know that I planted a seed somewhere, and I'm hoping that that seed will continue to grow. Because this I can't do on my own, but I can only do it with the help of everyone here. So I'm here for any questions. I will do my best to answer them. I'm tired. I might start speaking Arabic or French, but it's okay. Hopefully there are some translators over here. Absolument. Très bon. Super. Okay, we got a translator here. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Heidi Schubert, and I appreciate your service to the school board. I sat on the Emerson PTA for 5 years recently. I think you're a little disingenuous at the beginning of your comments to say that you don't understand why the schools haven't been placed on this list, which is not a chopping block per se, but is a discussion of closure. I personally also do not want to see Emerson closed, but I understand that the Benyon, Emerson, Hawthorne triad is well underpopulated. The schools, in particular Hawthorne and Benyon, are old. Emerson has been rebuilt. Emerson has newer solar. And so I think it is unfortunate that they perhaps lie in your district. I do think that there are reasons that the school board needs to show efficiency with the taxpayer dollars and move schools into larger population growth so that kids can have larger school populations, they can have exchange of classrooms and not only single classrooms per grade, which is happening in some of these schools, and that these changes, while uncomfortable, need to take place.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate your comment. In regards, but I'm gonna go ahead and push a little bit against the word disingenuous, okay? Why I would say so is because I am here talking to you as a person who only received the information the same time everyone received them. This is why I'm asking, now that we move the process forward, the plan is us as a board member I would like a weekly update. We are so tired, and all of the board members have voiced this. Again, we talk about status quo. This is how we used to work. This is how it's been working. Hey, we got this issue here. Legislators are after us. We only have limited of time. We got to vote on it today. So we are placed in a spot. Now that we have new board members, and specifically I will talk about Ashley here. She has been so outspoken, and I really appreciate her about breaking this idea of, hey, we have this thing, but we only have today. If you do not vote on it, we're violating the law. So we did not receive enough information during the process. We really did not. And when I was in California and I received a call about the schools, I was stunned. I did not expect 2 close schools geographically within half a mile from each other to be placed on a study list for a future closure. I did not.
Makes sense.
Hmm?
It makes complete sense to close schools that are near each other so that you combine communities without having to go very far.
Absolutely, I understand that. But again, let's talk about this, okay? So here is Hawthorne, okay? And here is Emerson. Here is 700. Here is 1100. Here is 1300.
I drive by your house every day.
Yeah, I'm so glad. But I'm talking about safety. We had so many kids that got in accidents because of crossing 700. How is it that if we were to close these 2 schools, then people from Emerson will have to go to Uwanta? What about the kids that bike? What about the parents who are working both and the kid is adjusted to bike into there? Are we going to be expecting them to ride up that hill? I mean, we are talking about so many things out here.
The school board hired the committee to make the
No, we did not. The superintendent appointed 13 members, and they are all within the higher positions in the district. We did not hire an external agency. Are we clear here now? Huh? It's good. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I think you was before you.
I actually am more on her side.
It's okay. Yeah.
The point is, I lived in another city before that's gone through school closures over 20 years.
Right.
I'm very familiar with this. So I want to say 2 things, but then 2 things separate. One is most school districts, and that includes Salt Lake, are terrible at planning. They don't have resources dedicated to it. And as a school board member, you should look into that because they're not future oriented. The second thing is, I went to one of the May meetings.
Okay.
And what I said was, starting right then, there should be planning for school integration. Because the school families are being pitted against each other. We don't want our school closed. When in the end, whatever schools are closed, they all get integrated. And so we should be thinking that. Oh, the third thing, before even that, is maybe I 100% believe the process is to accelerate.
Yeah.
People don't have the time to ask the question. But the fourth thing, and this is why the schools in your area are seemingly targeted, it's because in the central city, people don't live there with kids.
Yeah.
And it's a demographic issue.
Yeah.
And even though Salt Lake is growing, and I went to high school in a county with 1.3 million residents. Lots of the high schools have closed since I went there,
Right.
40 years.
Yeah.
And I thought it was because it was shrinking. It's suburban Detroit. No, the county grew by 300,000 people. It's the change in American demographics and the decrease in household size. But regardless, we need more time to make better decisions.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. We do need more time, and it is very sad. It is correct. Salt Lake City is growing, but we also have the demographic, change. We need to give people something, the new generation, something in the water. Hopefully they'll have more kids, sooner than later.
Hey, last question, Leah.
Sorry,
Yes.
I am a parent of an Emerson student and also on the SCC. Regardless of my love for Emerson Elementary School, I will just say that as our SCC had to ask the district to provide us with the data that was used to generate the list of schools that were on the closure list, they did not provide the rubric by which they ranked the schools. So they provided the rank sheet, but they didn't provide how the scores were determined on the forms. So they provided a set of raw data with no code to parents who then had to decipher it on their own. They did not provide a summary of how they arrived at the rankings. They did not
Yes.
provide any kind of background. So for SCC members and parents who have time to dig into data and try to assimilate that, that's wonderful. Not everybody has the time or the ability
Yes.
to do that. And that is
Absolutely.
a procedural issue that I think is very concerning given the
Yes,
time frame that we're talking about. So regardless of how schools close or children are reassimilated, starting at the beginning and talking about how and why is
transparency.
really critical. And that's where
Absolutely.
we're sitting right now with a lot of
Yes.
distrust, I think, already in
Yeah.
the process.
Absolutely. I know that I did talk with the superintendent. She just came in, and of course, things are placed in her lap just like that. But I did talk with her, and I brought everything to her attention. And she is actually going to take into consideration, not take into consideration, but make sure that we have that data available and the reason behind it. Yeah. Be patient with us, and something will come out of this eventually. Kids are gonna grow, and sadly to say, district is shrinking. The parents here, which is like Salt Lake City in this case, had a lot of kids. Kids graduated, they left home. Now the parent will have to downgrade. And that's what's going on in our Salt Lake City. Okay. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, I'll be hanging out around for a while, for a bit, I'll let my son know that I'm running late. Yeah. All right, thank you.
We'll keep talking. So next we have our CIU officer, Sam Fallows. You want the microphone, Sam? Oh, this one.
Awesome. How's everybody doing? So I walked into the bar. No, I'm just kidding. She's not my name. Just kidding. I want to walk into a bar.
We got lots of good bars to support
I
here.
know, sure. All right. So I'm Detective Sam Fallows. I'm the community liaison for District 7, as well as District 5 and 6. My job is to kind of report on the crime statistics for the neighborhood. And if y'all have any questions, think of them, and then I'll take some questions at the end. Just any question you might have. I'm not good at math though, so I know that. This math is easy because the computer does all of it for me. So, but before we get into the statistics, I want to just highlight a couple things. The first thing I want to highlight is the SLC mobile app. I'm still Hannah's thunder. Sorry, Hannah. So a lot of us already know about the app and utilize it for concerns regarding homelessness. Like we all know that one. So I wanted to just highlight some of the other things you can do with it on the police side. So if you're having speeders in your neighborhood or any kind of traffic issue that you want the police department's motor squad to come out and maybe do an operation or something like that and stop some cars, you can utilize the app for that. It's under, I think, just speed. If you have an abandoned building nearby your neighborhood or something like that, or in the area that you're aware of, and you know that maybe there are some individuals that are breaking into it or possibly living out of it or something like that, or an abandoned home, you can also utilize the app for that as well. And again, just to reiterate, the app is for things that do not require an immediate police response and are not crimes, right? So like an unsecured building, a down stop sign, you can use it for that. Speeders, I mean, you could call the police. It's a little bit better for us to have our motor squad come out and deal with it, because by the time we get the call and dispatch and then we get dispatched to it, they're going to be into South Salt Lake already. So you can call. If it's like a reckless driver thing, call because we want to know about that, obviously. But if it's just like someone speed through the neighborhood, the app is probably a little bit more appropriate because then that'll actually get the motor unit to, because they utilize those and they kind of prioritize them and then they're able to go out and do some speed enforcement. So that's one way to do that as well. Of course, the concern regarding homelessness, you can utilize it for shopping carts that might be left in the neighborhood or just laying around or something like that. You just take a picture and upload it for just under, I believe it's just under a shopping cart. So I just want to highlight that real quick. It's a very versatile app for our citizens, which is awesome because I've lived in a couple different cities and never had anything that cool. So, and then I wanted to just highlight two other things real quick. So they kind of go hand in hand. We all know like the 2000 East goalie and all the issues we've been having with that recently. I believe, as far as I understand, that has been cleared out now. There might be some leftover trash. I have that scheduled to be cleaned if it hasn't been cleaned already with our Advantage services. But something I wanted to highlight is, sometimes when we see the big encampments, it can bring other issues, sometimes criminal with like thefts, property thefts, which we did see go up this month for sure. June is what I have the data for. So we definitely saw property crimes go up in Sugar House. So, but I wanted to highlight something that's just like really simple that one of our citizens did that turned out really great. And that was just essentially, they saw some people hanging out of the business after hours, around 11 midnight. It didn't look right. They were kind of setting up a camp. So they called us. We were able to make 2 arrests out of that. And, just due to their diligence and calling us every time these people were trying to set up and things like that, we were able to keep on top of it. And eventually it kept, the area clean and clear. And so that's, obviously we don't want people setting up at businesses, things like that overnight. Needles get left or trash or human waste or whatever it may be. So if you're seeing those minor things, like just something suspicious, someone walking through the neighborhood who's, looking into cars, like we all know that's suspicious, right? But if you take the time just real quick to call it in, you don't even have to have a call back from an officer. You can be anonymous if you want to, but it'll get an officer through the neighborhood. It'll kind of act like an extra patrol for the neighborhood. And a lot of times if we can get there quick enough, or if we're able to stop someone, then we can, there might be other things that we can do with that. So kudos to our Sugar House citizen that was being vigilant and helping us out with that, because we really need your help, obviously, the police department, because we can't be everywhere at once. There's just not enough of us to do that. So to highlight some of the statistics for the month, let's see. So I pull all the Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. Sorry, my P's are getting really loud. I pull all the Part 1 and Part 2 crimes for the neighborhood. Part 1 crimes can be anything from like aggravated assault, arsons, and burglaries, homicides to and then Part 2 crimes can be anything from like family offenses, frauds, and gambling, things like that. So we have a whole slew of different crimes. Everything I find can be found on our website. And on that, real quick, if anybody ever follows the CAD calls on our website that was down for a while, that is back up. So if you're doing that at all. So for Sugar House, we did, like I said, we saw an increase in thefts. We had 88 in the month of June. Reported thefts. We had 29 other assaults. Those are generally like the more misdemeanor assaults that are like not aggravated, weapons, things like that. We had 18 vandalisms, 16 frauds, and 11 drug abuses, which are just like drug type cases. So a lot of times we see like thefts and frauds are pretty common together. We see those numbers kind of go up together because a lot of times people will either break into a car or break into your home or something like that. They'll steal a purse or a wallet. They'll have the cards and then they'll go immediately try and use them. So just a good reminder, like try and make sure that we're keeping our vehicles locked up, our homes locked up at night, our lights on. Lights is a huge thing. I recently went through a CEPTED course, a crime prevention through environmental design course. And essentially lighting was the #1 way you can help prevent crime for your neighborhood and for yourself. So turn your lights on at night, keep them on while it's dark. A lot of times you can just get those lights that have timers and stuff like that. And you don't have to worry too much about the energy bill. And just try and be vigilant as much as you can. If you see something, then please call us. We can't always respond all the time, like immediately, and I understand that, and that can be frustrating sometimes. But again, the way I see it is essentially, no matter how long it takes us, you're going to get an officer in the area, in your neighborhood. Even if we're not able to respond right away, it'll still work like an extra patrol. You'll still get eyes in the neighborhood, and to me, that's always positive. So, with that, any questions?
What's the name of that app?
Oh, SLC Mobile, like MOBILE. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a police camera on the post near the draw and the Sizzler?
There is,
Because I
yeah.
saw red and blue light flashing. I was wondering, is it permanent or is it just a temporary one like the ones?
That one's a little bit more permanent, so they were able to kind of put that up there to help with like the tunnel and all that. And I hope that it's staying semi-clear, hopefully. Last I heard it has. If it's not, please let me know
Okay.
so I can deal with that. But because we don't want it to get, built back up to how it was. So, but yeah, I was able to get the police camera put up there. I'm working on getting some trailer cameras put up. I think we got one scheduled for Sugar House to go up. So we're just trying to. They have to strategically place them all over the city depending on need. So, but I do have that scheduled. So, yeah, good question.
So how does that work? Is it like a motion sensor that goes off?
No, they're just on all the
Someone's
time.
always watching it?
Yeah. So the one that she's talking about is actually hardwired into the power on the pole. So it's just always recording and always flashing red and blue lights.
And there's someone always on a monitor watching that?
No, that'd be cool. Little back
So,
cam, just like-
yeah. So you just gotta go back and see.
Yeah, it's more of a deterrent than anything with the red and flat blues. But if we do have, like, we've had some crimes happen. Like in Ballpark last year, we had some homes lit on fire multiple times. If y'all remember that in the news. And we had a camera like right there, and so we were able to capture it with that. So for those kinds of things, it's we put them in a high profile area, and then we can pull the video and go back. Yeah, we
I've
just
seen them in
not.
parking lots too, like in big,
Yeah,
yeah.
and some of those are like businesses that they purchase themselves, and then some of them are ours. Ours will have the Salt Lake City PD logo on it. Yeah, sir.
What if they put them on YouTube and let the citizens watch it?
I don't know how that would work. That's like my pay grade.
Tech
Too
guys.
much information.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. Any other questions? Yes.
I know the city has lowered the speed limit by 5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I've seen a number of signs change. There's maybe a few that aren't yet. Is there gonna be something in the paper that says signs are all up, it's being enforced citywide? Or just something to say, we've got everything up.
That's a good question.
It'll be enforced across the city.
Yeah.
Or how do we know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would just say, first and foremost, just as you're driving, just be aware of like what the speed limit sign says, right? And then secondly, they usually do some kind of a press release. I know they were doing them in like sections because there's just like a lot of signs to replace all at once. So I'm sure that you like in one way or another will be, whether it's just me saying, hey guys, the signs are up over in this area or whatever it is. It seems like they've been doing press releases on it when the signs are being put up, like the 20-mile-an-hour signs. So. SLC mobile app. You can put on the mobile.
I remember when that was announced, so that you stated that all roads are 20 miles per hour unless otherwise.
Yeah, I think any of the 25s are now 20s essentially, basically. Yeah. I don't know about all roads, but definitely like the 25s. Yeah, absolutely. Like residential is all 20. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, you've been a great audience. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sam.
All right, guys, I'm gonna invite Carissa Peterson up. So she owns the Extra Mark. It's on the corner of 13th East. She's our spotlight on business tonight. She's pumped for all you guys not for the come and go going away. And that site is now up for sale.
Come and go.
Come and gone. Well done, Bill. Yeah, I'm gonna have to lower this. I'm gonna have to lower this.
I don't know, I got some tall friends.
If for sale sign's up, yeah, right? For lease?
It is
For lease, yeah.
Release.
All right, I'm Carissa Peterson, and I, like Landon said, I own the Chevron on 2100 South and 1300 East. My family's owned it since 2001. Originally, I'm from a small town in Richfield, and I came up to the University of Utah to get my accounting degree. And I fell in love with that store. So I managed it while I went to college, and I've officed there since. So it's kind of been my home base. So we're excited to announce a new remodel at the store. So we branded Extra Mile, but we are still locally owned and still the same. We just franchise the name so we can have a rewards program and different benefits. So we're going to be having our grand opening August 14th through the 19th. So we'd like you guys to stop by. Some new additions that have come to the store is a blue taco. So it's similar to like a Cafe Rio lineup. So you go in and you order your items and you move down the line. You can kind of customize them. And then also we have a Sugar Fix. Sugar Fix is a company that I started probably 10 years ago down in Draper at one of my stores down there. I started making my family cookie recipe and it just went huge. So over the last 10 years, we've been distributing our cookies everywhere until COVID hit. And it got pretty bad. I lost every bit of my employment. So the drivers, the bakers, everybody walked out. They didn't want anything to do with COVID. But our main people that we distributed to were gas stations. And so luckily I had my amazing cousin, Ryan, who's also from the town that I'm from, and his partner, business partner, life partner, Chance, step in and they saved it all. So they came in and they started baking cookies. They took over the whole distribution center and they have grown dramatically. So now we're opening our second location here in the Sugar House store. So we'll be selling coffee, drinks, soda drinks, and then our cookies. So come in and have some of those. We did bring some samples. So they're the flour cookies that are out here. Those are Grandma's recipe that everybody loves the best. So do you guys want to say anything? Jean is the manager that's at the store. So if you guys stop in, say hi to her, she'll definitely be there. I office there, so I'm usually in the back, but knock on the window. I'm always there. And then these two will definitely be at the window to help serve you. So it's 2110 South and 1300 East. So it's just this Chevron right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
across from the old system.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why we are grateful for you guys fighting come and go for us. We owe you huge. Anyways, thanks for your time. Yes.
Yeah. I might be shooting myself in the foot a little bit here, but you can air your tires there for free. You don't have to deal with a machine.
That is true.
doesn't work. It's, I don't know, a great little neighborhood service. And the car wash ain't bad.
Yeah, we have a brand new car wash we just put in last year, and it's fantastic. We have free vacuums with it, so if you go through the car wash, you can use the free vacuums. And then we also, although it was a 3-year project, we put in EV chargers. So those 2 EV chargers that are on the south end of our parking lot, those are DC fast chargers, and they will charge your car in 20 to 30 minutes. It's not like a one you have to plug in overnight. So that is another thing. My grandpa, I grew up in the oil business. My grandpa would die if he knew that I put EV chargers in my parking lot. Well, thanks guys for your time, and please don't forget cookies.
The beer cave down there is amazing.
We do have a pretty awesome beer.
Yeah.
We just got new shelving, so you have to go in and have a ton of local beer.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, and I'd like to say I just wanted to welcome Sarah Young here. She's our new city councilwoman. Just say congratulations, and we'll hear from her in a little while. So next we're gonna go with Bill Knowles, and then Brandon and Erica can kind of tag team with him, and Judy. All right, so Bill Knowles, the ombudsman for Salt Lake City. He's here to entertain you with his construction thoughts.
Tell us about the guy driving the crane last
Judy, don't start already. Let me get warmed up a little bit here. And I will try to move on. One thing I did do, as to not bore you with each and every single detail of this report, is I brought a bunch to sit over there by the door, and you can get one on your way out. Oh, it's exciting bedtime reading, I think. But I also wanted to say that it's updated from the one that went out in the newsletter a week ago, because things keep moving and changing. So there are some updates in there just to maybe incite you to pick up a copy instead of just thinking you already read it. But I do want to basically make a couple of general statements. Some of these residential properties are actually getting finished this year. The guy just across the street here, the first phase is opening up in about a month and a half. and then the rest of it will be up by the front of the year. Yeah, I mean, yeah, geez, it's like part of the landscape now, right? It's just always there. It's actually going to be done, and there's going to be businesses on the bottom floor, and everything's going to be cool. But another one is going to be finishing up. Actually, a couple are the Izzy's down on the other end of the street. Izzy North is going to be opening up here in about 4 to 5 weeks, and that's going to be followed by Izzy South before, again, the end of the year. So I'm just saying on 21st South, we'll be getting some runway back. There might be another 1 or 2 coming back in to replace that, but not immediately. So we're going to get a little break on that. So again, these notes will be in these copies that you hopefully you might want to pick up on the way out the door. One thing I do want to address is Highland Drive. There's, as you well know, that's an ongoing, moving project right now. And it's, I have to say, I may hear differently, it's really been managed well. The information and the timelines are working. They're doing what they said they were going to do when they said they were going to do it. And I'm going, boy, that's pretty unique. It really has been, though, right, Leah? It has really been moving well. And now that I said that, I'm probably going to have to move.
Well, I'm about to say.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that.
You say
Forget what I
first.
just said. But there is a couple of notes on that I think are going to be important information. And we are going to be, as you know, traffic is shifted over to the east side of the road southbound. They're working on that west side. As part of that, they're going to start some critical water connections next week on Ashton Avenue, on Simpson Avenue, and on Sugarmont. All right, and these water connections have to go underneath the canal that most of you know exists, that comes through there. And so it's not an easy process, and it has to be a bore pit, and it takes some time. But we will have traffic. We've got Ashton, I'll get into that here in a second, specific to Ashton, but we will have westbound traffic going through Ashton. We'll have eastbound traffic coming through Simpson, and Sugarmont will have to be closed because of that narrow stretch there. There's not room for both traffic, 2 lanes of traffic, and the project. They'll be putting bore pits to get underneath this canal. The whole process takes about 2 weeks. The actual connection, they are turning off the canal water for 3 days. So we actually have 3 days to complete it once we get everything in place. So there's a preparation that has to be done, then the actual project itself, then after that, the cleanup or the repairing of the road. So that whole process will take about 2 weeks. But we will keep traffic accessible going back and forth, so you'll have access west and you'll have access east. But you'll see it out there, and it will be busy. The other part of the Highland Drive news is, and this is about a month down the road, we're still working on some of the details, but the intersection, some of you have been well aware of that, but we've got a big job there at the intersection of 21st and Highland. And it will begin in about 1 month, September 5th. And we will be keeping 1 lane, again, southbound as it is now. We'll be keeping a lane in each direction, east and west, but it will not be a good place to just go to if you have nothing else to do. So it's definitely going to be accessible, getting people in and out, and to businesses. But again, it's going to be just a pain in the rear. That's all I can say. But we have to get it done. There's a lot of the utility work that has to be done over and above just repairing the roadway itself. So we've all known, and we have the contractor under contract to be out of there in 45 days. So this isn't like, gee, I hope we can make this, and gee, I wish you would. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. They've got to be under that. They'll be penalized if they don't. So that's what's coming up about a month down the road. We do have, back to Ashton for a minute, we've been working very diligently with the contractors there at the Altaterra project, and it's been a mess lately. They've kind of let it go back down. We got a road open there. We had one-way traffic. They were to come back to us with a pedestrian access plan. Never happened. And now it's basically all the one-way signs are gone and everything else. So I want you to know if you notice that, and why wouldn't you? I've seen way too much myself. We have gotten their attention. We have had to lay some laws down and some threats, frankly, and we'll have a pedestrian access, safe pedestrian access through there, hopefully by the end of next week. It's supposed to be this week, but now they're getting to the end of next week. And we will have a one-way traffic through there, particularly when we have that bore pit that is going to be connecting the water lines through there. And it will be designated one-way traffic and not just anybody drive anywhere you want to get through there if you can, maybe you won't. But that is getting cleaned up, and it's been the subject of a lot of back and forth over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and as recently as this morning. So that is what is going on along the Highland Drive corridor. As I said, these other projects, these guys, and we do have on their radar that this walkway up to the Dilworth School has got to be back open when school opens. So that is talking to the contractor here who's anyway been running around in different directions on us, but they have gotten this, thank God. This walkway you see out here now was going to be about a 6-week deal, 3 months ago, something like that. And so we're really glad that we held the line and got that. Salt Lake Transportation stuck to the guns and pushed them hard and maintained and kept that walkway there. We are going to get the other one on the west side of it done here before school opens. And that is kind of a quick summary. Again, there's more notes going to be over here. And
Well, the boring project, it's at not this kind of boring, the 3 different intersections be done before the September 5th start of the Highland Drive and 21st South intersection.
the answer is yes.
Okay, those
At least as we know it now. And again, all of these schedules, you always put that caveat in there, subject to weather, subject to, but yes, the schedule is starting next week. It's a 2-week project that should be done before the 1st of the month. And again, about the last week, it was 3rd week in August. So that's what, yes.
Maybe Judy knows the answer to this. Have we heard any more from the people who bought the Wells Fargo property? If they're going to start demolition? Or
Yeah, well, we'll have, I'm sure Landon has got more on that, and I chuckle a little bit because there's been a lot, but not to the extent of the demolition or the project's not, the new project has not been approved yet.
No.
So there is no plan approved, and until they have one, they can't knock the building down. And until they do, there's still people in the building. I mean, they're still using it. So, and that wouldn't be nice, would it? But actually, there's not an approved plan yet, and it will be a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anybody else?
All right.
Okay.
We have Erica and Brandon from the chamber.
Hello. First of all, we wanted to talk to you about Sugar House Rocks. If you hadn't noticed, the giant logo like across people's foreheads up here. And if you have not joined us yet for Sugar House Rocks, please make sure to get down there for our next event. It is on the 3rd Friday of the month, and we are shifting the time. Yes.
Are you stealing our thunder?
It's an awesome event. I have to tell you, it was incredible. I gave these guys, it's like I couldn't believe it all. And they've done this themselves. I just got to say, it's incredible.
That's good. Thank you, Bill. I thought you forgot to say something.
I'll
on your
pay you
notes.
later. So yes, make sure you get down there. We have more and more vendors every event, great music. We are moving the time to 6 to 9 in recognition of all the heat. As last time we were out there, we were all melting and dying, and the attendance in that first hour just isn't there because people are afraid that they'll incinerate out there on Monument Plaza. But then after that, it gets pretty nice. The shadows move in, the music is good, so make sure to join us down there.
Yeah.
And while you're down there, support some of our local businesses here. So one thing we wanted to solicit feedback, primarily from our perspective from the business community. I know that there's going to be a boatload of reaction and responses to this. We're mostly looking for feedback from the business community on this, but it's regarding the proposed drive-through amendment. Is that what?
Text amendment.
Text amendment that would potentially either not allow new drive-throughs in the Sugar House Business District, Sugar House at large. As it stands right now, the chamber's stance, from what we have heard from businesses, is that something needs to be passed that isn't so black and white, that is all 4 drive-throughs, free for all, and no drive-throughs can exist. One of the reasons Erica pointed out was, what if we have another pandemic? A lot of the businesses survived based on being, to open up kind of impromptu drive-throughs. We wouldn't want to prohibit things like small business coffee shops or things like that coming into the area. The counter to that, we also probably would be a little bit leery if Chick-fil-A 2.0 wanted to come in. So we're hoping that we can work with city leaders once we have some feedback to implement sort of reasonable reactions to the future growth of those kind of businesses in Sugar House. So if you are a business owner, feel free to reach out to Eric and I if you have a stance different than that, or Eric and I mostly want to be a voice for the businesses. We're not here trying to, come up with our own things that we think the business community needs. We want your feedback in order to make that happen. So, do you want me to introduce Judy?
Yeah.
This is the perfect segue.
This is the person, if you're a community member and not a business, to send all the comments to. Judy Short.
I'm so glad about come and go. But the problem is, Nick says, first of all, don't talk about it a lot because you might get what you wish for. But another drive-through could still apply. We could go through it again, maybe. I don't know. But maybe Maverick could just sell it.
You got it.
Okay, maybe Maverick will just sell it. You're right, that's better. So, hold on. Maybe we should talk about, rather than talk about everything else that happened, let's talk about what Brandon was just talking about. The letter that our land use committee wrote to the planning commission suggested that the Sugar House Business District, and he's got the map up here so you can tell where it is. The part in red is Business District 1. The part in yellow is Business District 2. So it's only those areas. It's not everything else, for one. The drive-throughs that are existing now will not go away. They will remain. And Nick explained to me that if CVS sells their building and it's another drugstore, they can still have their drive-through. And CVS is a better one because it's in the back. It doesn't seem to interfere too much. But then so is Chick-fil-A is also in the back, and that doesn't work. So it's not really changing a lot. It's just there won't be any new ones. And when you look at this, there's still a lot of space very close to Sugar House where there could be other drive-thrus. I mean, we agree. And my letter also said we think pharmacies and banks should be accepted. They should be allowed. Because there's a certain portion of our community that needs that. Maybe it's somebody who's old and they can't get around very easily, or somebody with an immune issue, or they don't want to get out and walk through the drugstore where everybody's coughing and pick up their prescription. So that's our position, and we'd hope that you might support that. And so you all got the email that I sent, and I'm sorry it was so late, but it gives you a link to all that. It gives you a link to the whole process, to my letter, to the staff report. So you can piggyback on our letter, and Sarah's here to catch what's going on. So I've told her that I'm collecting, it's the usual, send an email to me with a comment, and I copy and paste those in a letter, and they go attached to the letter that I write. So that's a good way for her to get exactly what you're saying. But you can talk now if you want.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So let's say in the instance of Tizanti, for example, just to throw this out. Let's say that Tizanti currently doesn't have a drive-through, wanted to open up a pull-through kind of, I want to come through, pick up my bag of tea that I ordered online. Are you saying that this would prohibit that from them being able to do something
I
like
think
that?
so. Are they in Business District 2?
Yes.
Yeah,
They're in one, I think.
probably would.
A comment and question, I think, for business and citizen input. Because from my point of view, this isn't a zoning issue, this is a traffic issue. And has there been no discussion about trying to find a solution to address those drivers who feel so entitled that they feel they can block the traffic lane while they're waiting for their cup of coffee? I think that's the problem. The problem isn't the business. The problem is the drivers. And I think by trying to address the business, we're not addressing the problem. And there needs to be, before we do something that radical, there needs to be a conversation about how can we deal with these drivers.
So every store that has a drive-through needs to get a traffic person out there to, make people, what? Get the car in front of them to move faster? I don't quite get it, George.
Well, I think that people might lose their sense of entitlement after they get a couple of citations.
Okay, Sam could write a new law.
Well, that's what we're suggesting for the businesses, not drivers.
Richard?
The issue was queuing capacity.
Right.
And most of the places that aren't problems have enough on site.
Right.
Chick-fil-A, you'd say, is a bad social user because they use the street.
Right.
And the street, 2100, only has so much road capacity.
Right.
Personally, I'd make a rule that would force them onto 1300 East because that road has the capacity. I mean, the sites are big enough where you can have off-site or on-site queuing. But sorry to bring this up, I lived in Washington for 30 years. And in Washington, DC, a neighborhood abutting commercial district, the drive-ins aren't even allowed. Not anything. It's not even a special exception or review. Only in, the car part of the city, which fortunately isn't a majority of it, are carryouts allowed, and they require hearing. So, the problem, Sugar House's land use context is kind of unique, and I really hate to ever use the word unique in land use, but, there's this really intense district abutting 1.5-story housing. And from a urban planning standpoint, Sugar House is a national best practice example of intensification outside of the core.
Right.
But then it creates these kinds of issues.
Yeah.
Maybe there needs to be, the business and us regular citizens coming together and, having lots of meetings to discuss some of these things. But, I can't believe Chick-fil-A was approved.
Well, so I'll tell the story and then I'm going to follow on Molly.
Or if there was,
So
it was never revisited.
across the street was Carl's Jr. before it was the taco place. And I said to Nick, I said, Chick-fil-A should not be going in there. There's no space. And he said, but I have to let him because Carl's Jr. has it. So that's the rule, whatever that rule is, that needs to go away. So if we say there can't be one, then there can't be one.
And they might locate to a location where
Right.
they could.
And I have to say that they did work hard to move it so you go in and around the back and out this way. So they tried to make the queue a little longer, but they need a queue of 25 cars. South Salt Lake turned them down.
Because now the traffic queues all the way up to 13 feet.
I know, it's just terrible. Sarah, Molly, I'm sorry.
Is there a precedent within the planning department to have some form of criteria where it would be allowed by right up to a certain capacity, but then over that, they would have to apply for it special and have permission from the council? For example, McDonald's, Cafe Rio, they don't appear to be egregious, like flagrant violators of this, but Chick-fil-A is, and it's a capacity issue. So is there criteria anywhere else that could be applied?
I don't think there is, but there ought to be. There ought to be something better.
So would it be a problem maybe not to have a drive-through like for Tizanti, but you have like a parking spot? So you order online, you go to the parking spot, you get your stuff and you go, then the next person can come. Kind
Maybe.
of like when I went to Target the other day and ordered online and pulled up to the thing and
Yeah.
they threw it in my car and I went.
I mean, they have a few spaces in the back that might work.
Yeah, it's kind of like a car hop.
One more question. We gotta get Zia. Go ahead.
Follow-up question, Judy. Has there actually been a study done of all the drive-throughs? Because as I walk around, I don't drive around to your house, Chick-fil-A seems to be the only one that's registered. So
Right.
has there been an
And the
actual
new Jack
study?
in the Box.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. Would you put that in a written comment for me?
When does that go to city council?
It's not targeted yet. I don't think. Is it on the
Do
agenda?
we have, go ahead.
Is this on the agenda yet?
Can you come up here and answer the question?
Well, I'm glad that this is being brought up by a lot of people and this issue of traffic. One thing that I wanted to mention is, so Highland in front of the building, there's a lot of restaurants on that corridor that were not really designed to be drive-throughs, but they developed a really active pickup business. And what happens is people like Uber Eats and what have you park in the right lane right in front of there, and they leave their vehicles and go pick up their stuff. Sometimes they wait. So there's always a line of cars along that Highland Drive, and oftentimes you get people that like to block the entrance to the garage. If they park very irresponsibly. So that whole area is kind of free flow. It's like being in Italy or something. And so it's really, I think that like Buffalo Hot Wings and all these guys developed this like takeout business that wasn't really, like that building was designed to have that kind of traffic.
Yeah.
But that project design will take that labeling and widen that out into a multi-use path. It will maintain the access to the view, but all of that space goes away. And we've been working with the businesses there to talk about how when Sugar Alley is complete, all that pickup will need to happen along Elm, which is the road to the south of the building, or along the back route into the plaza, because if they stop, they will be in the active traffic lane, so they won't have that
But
space.
for example, when they narrowed that lane, people literally just stop.
Oh yeah,
and
they're
block
pulling
traffic.
into the work zone right now while we're trying to build.
So
maybe we need to ask the city council to table this for a while while we figure all this out. Send me your comments. I want all of them.
All right, Krista wanted me to remind everybody or tell everybody that at the Friday of the grand opening, Saturday. They'll have a raffle for free gas for a year. So head to their store. Just an update, the old Roslyn Heights or spa building over in Lower Country Club area, they hope to tear that building down within the next month or two. We are hopeful that it'll be athletic fields for Highland High afterwards, I hope. So my son can play lacrosse at 3:30 rather than 10 o'clock at night. The old Roslyn Heights or spa, it's called the School for Performing Arts. It's now vacant.
Landon?
Yeah.
I saw on Next Door Neighbor app.
Yeah.
Someone had posted that there could be apartments that go in there.
No. Fault. Just stay off that app. Skylar, come on up. And is Daniel Fuchs here? Come on up. Okay, so these are two new trustees that are joining us. This is Skylar Westerdahl. He's going to be a Westminster trustee. And then we have Daniel Fuchs, who's going to be a Forestdale. Did I say that right?
No, Fox.
Fox.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay. So we're going to give them just a couple minutes to introduce themselves, and then Will's going to do the voting. Okay?
Hi, everybody. I'm super nervous standing in front of so many people. Very sweaty. I'm Skylar. I actually grew up outside of Salt Lake City in Portland, Oregon. Benefited a lot from city and community resources. Then I moved here for my husband, who's the handsome person in the back. One of the handsome people in the back. And have continued to benefit from all the amazing resources that you guys have put together. The Sugar House Rocks, the art, Sugar House Arts Night, which is wonderful and I love it. I'd love to continue to help with other community initiatives that you guys all are working on and participate in any way that I can. I'd love to get people's help or especially Westminster community's help with putting in a CIP, just like other people in our community have been working on. And then I am hoping to be part of the CIP board going forward next year or so, a while now, to be another voice advocating for some of the awesome ideas that a lot of people have in this area and Salt Lake too. Great.
Not sweaty, but either way, still don't like to jump up in front of big groups either. So anyways, yeah, my name's Dan Fox, originally from Montana. I've been here for about 10 years. I've lived in my house for about 4 years now. Just honestly want to be more involved in my community and do what I can to do to help and just be involved. That's really it. So I don't know what else I'm doing here, so I'm learning. This is the first time I've been to a meeting of this sort. So yeah, it's been fun. So cool.
All right, so I need a motion from an existing trustee. Okay, a second? Okay, all in favor of our two new trustees? Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, thanks.
All right, Hannah, come on up. Where's Hannah?
Sorry.
So this is Hannah Barton. We've had Tim Cosgrove for a while now, but Hannah's gonna be his replacement. She'll do a fantastic job. So she's the mayor's liaison for this district.
What's Tim doing now?
Tim is in District 4 now, so we just had some changes on our team and got reshuffled around.
So he's still around?
Yes, he's still around. He didn't
There you
leave.
go. Love this.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Barton. I'm the community liaison from the mayor's office. I'm so excited to be working in District 7. I grew up in District 7. I went to Highland High School. My parents still live in District 7, so it's a great place to be. And I'm excited to work with all of you. I know that I have really big shoes to fill. Tim is an excellent liaison. He's so knowledgeable and helpful, and I hope to be that same resource for all of you. I get to know all of you and know what your priorities are and your passions, and try and help you in everything that you're trying to accomplish in Sugar House. So just a quick introduction. As I said, grew up in District 7. I went to Utah State for my undergrad, moved back to Salt Lake City, got my master's from the U, I worked for then County Mayor Ben McAdams for a year or so, then worked for him when he was in Congress for a couple years, and then found my way to Salt Lake City and have been in the mayor's office for just over a year, 15 months or so. So I really love it. I also work in District 6. I work with Detective Fallows already. So I'm hoping that proximity will be helpful. We can think collaboratively about things with our district neighbors. So,
phone number.
of course, yeah, I'd love to give you my phone number. I am ripe with business cards. Would love to hand them out tonight. So please come up and introduce yourself after the meeting. My phone number is 385-258-8503. Text, call anytime. And my email is hannah.barton@slcgov.com. And there is an H on the end of Hannah. Okay, I'll go jump into my announcements from the mayor's office. First, I want to highlight my community office hours for the month of August. I will be at Sugar House Rocks on the 18th. I will try to be there the whole time, and I'll be tabling, and I'll have a big sign so you won't miss me. Also, I will be in District 6, not too far from here, so you're welcome to come if you want. I will be at Sweetawee Gelato on Monday, August 7th from 4 to 6 p.m. So that's just a chance for anyone to stop by, ask questions, invite your neighbors. You know, of course, if I speak to people in Sugar House who don't know about the community council, I would love to send them your way because it's always great to get new members. That being said, if you guys missed him and want to go to the District 4 office hours, I will understand. It's okay. I wanted to talk about a couple of things today. First, I actually have a flyer with me, so I'll put that out. But the school district is looking for crossing guards. So if anyone is looking for a part-time job, we're really trying to push this out in the anticipating the new school year. They pay $17 an hour. I have also heard that there's a $250 sign-in bonus, and you get a free UTA pass. So if you're looking for a part-time job, something to do in the mornings and the afternoons, consider being a crossing guard. They are really needed right now. I also wanted to take a moment to talk about a press conference that the mayor attended yesterday. I know that homelessness is often at the top of everyone's minds. It's a big issue in Salt Lake City right now. And perhaps with the warmer weather, it's something that's maybe more visible. And people often have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. Those are all understandable. It's a very complex problem that requires a lot of complex solutions. And it's something that the mayor and her staff, including myself, spend a huge amount of time on. And I'm hoping to use my time in these regular updates to talk more about homelessness. And I recognize that because it's such a complex issue, it can often turn into a much longer discussion. And I want to be mindful of how much time I have on the agenda. But that being said, I'm always open to have longer discussions with y'all, set up smaller meetings with groups of residents, or even get the right people from the city connected, plugged in here to maybe take their own time on the agenda to have a more in-depth discussion. The mayor yesterday had a press conference announcing that the plan for the winter overflow shelter has been submitted to the state. That is a state requirement that all of the mayors in Salt Lake County work together to determine a city that will host the winter overflow shelter. Currently, there are roughly 800 beds available in the homeless services system in Salt Lake County. And obviously, there are not enough beds for the current amount of unhoused people in the county. And of course, with extreme temperatures in the winter, we want to be sure that people have a place to go. And so the mayor has worked closely with County Mayor Jenny Wilson and all of the city mayors throughout the county to figure out a plan. I do not know the current city or the city that will be hosting that overflow shelter, but I do know that it will not be Salt Lake City. Mill Creek generously hosted that service last year, and the rule is that if you do it once, you're off the hook for the next 4 years. So Mill Creek will not be doing it for the next 4 years. Another city in Salt Lake County will be hosting that. And this is really excellent, and it's a demonstration of the high level of coordination that's existing in a county that maybe hasn't existed before. Oftentimes this responsibility has fallen on Salt Lake City's plate, and the mayor is so happy to have those important relationships countywide, and to see other mayors stepping up and being willing to host these resources in their city. So I know that last year the overflow shelter was only from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It was simply a place for people to sleep. And that caused a number of issues because folks were then being bused downtown to the Gateway Rio Grande area. And that is not a part of this plan this coming year. So the plan has been submitted to the state. Ultimately, the state will review and approve or determine what they would like to be done. So we are at this point, waiting to hear from the state on that. I believe it's August 14th that the state will approve or announce what that plan will look like. So if anyone has any questions on that, let me know. The last update, I don't want to take too much time, but Westminster College reached out to me and had some updates on a construction project that they are doing. This isn't a city project, but obviously Westminster is a great asset to Sugar House and to the city, and so I'm happy to share this information. But if anyone has specific questions, I can connect you to the Westminster project manager. They are building a wellness center on the south end of their campus, and demolition is starting this week. But they did say that it will only be during business hours, and so it may be loud on the south end of campus. And they have an August 14th deadline to get their utilities tied into the street. That is a deadline set by the city. And so there will be some digging into the street and closure of the west sidewalk on 13th East. That will be a closure. It'll be between the crosswalk that gets you over to Allen Park. I think it's Downington. From that crosswalk over to Westminster Ave. That's where that construction issues will be. So sidewalk will be closed on the west side of the street. There will also be a closure for northbound traffic on 13th East. And they expect that closure window to be from Monday, August 7th to Thursday, August 10th, so next week. So just a heads up, you might want to avoid 13th East next week. But you will still be able to go northbound. So, question?
Well, actually, I'm connected to that.
Oh, great, thank you.
So
I should let you speak.
There are 3 homes there that are across the street from Allen Park. They're actually across the street from the 4 new condos that are there. And there's already been some road disruption there with those condos digging on the street.
Yes.
I guess all I wanted to say was, if you use 13th East between 21st South and 17th South, you might as well just avoid that street altogether, because it's not just putting in a few utilities there. There are going to be dump trucks there. They're going to demolish those 3 houses and a lot of comings and goings. The street has already been dug up by those 4 condos. And so it just, I would try to avoid that, along with all the other streets that you need to avoid in Sugar House. And then just know that classes there will be starting in 3 weeks. And so there are 400 or 500 students living on campus, and probably 300 or 400 of them have cars. They have to buy parking permits, so they should be parking on campus. However, I think there are always issues on the neighboring streets with students parking in your driveway or in front of your lawn or whatever. So just shoo them away. Most of those streets have specific parking regulations that they're not supposed to park there. But be aware that there's going to be, an onslaught there in 3 weeks.
Thank you very much. That was more comprehensive than the information I received, so thank you. Does anyone have any questions for me? Yeah.
Yeah, but more kind of a comment that goes along with, I live in Westminster, which is where most of the traffic is being diverted.
Oh, sure.
As a comment, would love if the city going forward could think of ways to preemptively help with the traffic, especially in these longer projects that are result in our smaller neighborhoods.
Sure.
The diversion pathways, temporary ways to slow traffic, because right now it's a highway, truly 13 going down Westminster. And it's not ideal.
Okay, going west, down Westminster?
To piggyback off that, I was just going to visit them, and I legitimately almost got run over by 2 cars in a 2-minute time span. Like, I'm on a bike, this is a side road, we need people to drive, like, go live there.
Yeah, okay, that's good feedback, thank you. I can talk to, it's my understanding that a traffic plan was probably required to be submitted with the project, but I can still talk to our traffic engineers at the city and see what type of strategies we could use to try and encourage cars to go slower on those diversion streets, because that's important. Yeah. Any other questions? Wow, you guys are going easy on me. Okay, well, thank you. Again, I'm so excited to work with all of you, so thank you.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm Leah Harding-Mel. I work in the Salt Lake City Engineering Office and also on a bunch of projects. I'm sure I've spoken with a lot of you before. We have a lot of work happening on roads in Sugar House, so I'm going to give you a quick update on actually several different infrastructure projects. Bill covered some of it, so we'll skip through a few slides, but if you want to just dive in, I'll try to go quickly. To the next slide, please. Many of you attended our 21st South Roadway Reconstruction Open House at Highland High School back in May. I wanted to give you a quick update. We had about 125 people sign in, so we probably had about 250 people show up. A lot of people blow right past that. We had some great conversations. We had some heated debates. We had some arguments, and we had some compliments. So what we're finding is we're still split 50-50. When we very first started the concept for 21st South, people were like, close it, one lane, all lanes, only cars. And we're kind of still seeing that dichotomy showing up in a lot of the input that we're getting. But we did have a lot of great input, 106 handwritten comments on the maps. We go to the next slide. Everything from advocating. That's weird. There's like, no, it's the right slide. There's just supposed to be stuff on it. Like, I didn't just bring you a blank circle. It's a pie chart. A lot of people would like to see more trees. They appreciate creating more places for people to walk and be comfortable on the street. People agree that it's hot and uncomfortable if you're not in a car. People agree that it's uncomfortable if you're driving a car because it feels very tight and narrow and people are going really fast. Some people didn't like change. Some people wanted more extreme change. We're trying to meet in the middle. And one of the biggest priorities is trying to keep everybody moving in some capacity while also adding space for people to be around and trying to make it more comfortable on site. So we'll go to the next slide. This terrifying line map is pretty much the same for most of you, except for on the far east end of Douglas Street, based on the input that we heard from folks on the east end north of 21st South, that neighborhood there. We've added a left turn in off of 21st South from that location. Otherwise, they were sort of landlocked between 13th East and Highland, or 11th East. So there will be a left turn so you can go from eastbound to northbound. If you weren't at the meeting or you're not familiar with the 21st South design, the major priority here is to limit left turns to predictable locations so that we can make it easier for people to know what's going to happen when they're driving on the road. That's a real problem in the heart of Sugar House. There's a lot of driveways, there's a lot of movement, and it's hard to know when people are going to stop and turn, which results in people kind of jolting around each other, and that makes it very uncomfortable and unpredictable. Additionally, the project adds a shared use path, park strip, some landscaping, other things. So here on the right is kind of showing how that left turn in will work. There was a request to add an additional left turn in this location at Elizabeth Street, which is, unfortunately it doesn't function being as close to Highland Drive as it would be. It would be in conflict with the amount of cars that are coming westbound on 21st to southbound on Highland Drive. So this is the compromise. It does at least allow for people to make a U-turn and come back if they need to, or for people to kind of funnel around the block. We recognize that this change is always going to be difficult. It will change traffic patterns around 21st South, which is what happens when we limit left turns. So we know that, and we hope that the trade-offs are worth it for everybody in the end by making it a more comfortable place to be for everyone. We'll jump to just really quickly on 21st South. So that project is at 70% design. They are working through final costing, final utility investigation, and specifications. I'll get right there to you in a second. The specifications for this project will be different than any of the road projects that Salt Lake City has done in recent years. Typically, because we operate on sort of a low bid, best bid contractor selection, the city will kind of set some perimeters for a contractor and then allow them to come in with their best bid based on how they think they can efficiently build the project. In this case, the stakes are too high in terms of the volume of traffic, the duration of the peak of traffic in Sugar House. We don't see our typical, morning commute, evening commute kind of peaks and valleys. We ramp up at about 6 a.m. and we kind of stay busy all day. And if Lynn Jacobs was here, he would tell you all the numbers, but I'm just gonna tell you that in order to maintain any semblance of traffic and access and business, service, freight, all of those things, the city is going to work more carefully to construct specifications around how we're gonna limit that. And when we're ready, we'll be back here to talk to you about what that's gonna look like. And we'll be doing some business workshops around that as well. I have 3 questions, so I'm gonna go to you, sir, in the blue shirt.
Just looking at the photo on the right there, you know that the westbound traffic is going to use that left turn lane to try and turn into Chick-fil-A.
That's a good point. I will discuss it with the team.
I guarantee, unless you put a raised curb there, that left turn lane will be full of people coming east trying to get into Chick-fil-A. Or going west trying to get into
Okay,
Chick-fil-A.
good point. I will absolutely share that feedback with the team. Ma'am in back.
I am not trying to be combative, so I apologize if this comes out that way. I genuinely do not understand how going from 4 lanes of traffic to 2 lanes does not create a pinch point. Can you please give me your best engineering explanation?
Yes, as a non-engineer, I will, and also not a traffic engineer, I will give you my understanding of how it works.
Thank you.
The signals at Highland and 900 East control all of the flow. And in 17 years of doing this work, I'm still a little rusty on how the clock of a signal works. But essentially, you have time for one movement, and then you have time for the cross movement. So there's only so much time you can allocate to either one or the other movements before everything starts to gridlock. So the signals are what's controlling everything that's happening on 21st South. And in order to balance how much traffic gets through on 21st South, we also have to balance how much traffic gets through on 9th and on Highland. So essentially, the signal controls how many cars can go through. And is anybody a traffic engineer in here? It's like 300 cars per lane is sort of like the capacity of a travel lane. But when you're stopping everybody at these 2 locations, you can only get about 300 cars through in a cycle. So whether you have 2 lanes or 1 lane, it's not going to change because it's not about how many lanes, it's about how much time is allocated. So I know. I would love for Lynn to come back and talk with you, or I can get a better explanation.
I
But
will come talk to you more in depth because I just don't really understand. If we're gonna have 2 lanes somewhere,
yeah.
Why wouldn't you come in all the way through one way or the other? This both and.
yes, so the 1 lane only, the 1 lane in each direction only fails for bus service. It fails for cars. It sends over, I think the number was around 10,000 vehicles onto neighborhood streets. So what we know is that 80% of the traffic is coming into Sugar House and stopping in Sugar House. So by the time they get to the section where it's 1 lane, which is only at the plaza essentially, or excuse me, just west of the plaza at McClellan, they're already going slow. They're already slowed down. Or they've peeled off. So it's not like a big stretch of 1 lane. And it functions because they would already be going slow because of those 2 signals. That's my amateur response. There is a slide on the website that details the clock that I'm talking about in more, probably better engineering speak. There's 2 more comments. I'm going to take them quickly. If they're long and we want to talk more, I still have 2 more projects to talk about. So go ahead.
All right. So currently there's a big problem with people stopping on the sidewalk as they're waiting to turn.
Mhm.
What is going to be happening to prevent people from just stopping on the multi-use path as they're turning?
Like in the driveways or in the
Yeah,
access
well,
points?
As they're waiting to turn, they'll just block the sidewalk and like wait for all the cars to go to have an opening. So like what they currently on Third West, it's a big problem with the multi-use path where the target is. People just stop on the multi-use path, and is there going to be any signage or anything like that?
That's a good question. That is both a driver responsibility thing and a signage thing that we probably need to look into in more detail. I don't know that answer about that, but I will. I can't remember your name, but we've talked before. I will check in with transportation on that. I will note that if you see green, that is your indicator as a driver that you are on approaching or at a bike facility. And so don't stop on the green, right? Stop before the green, look both ways, and then pull out in the back.
Yeah, so my question is, before you break ground, do you plan on setting up cones and just running like a prototype version of what this would look like before actually breaking ground?
That's a good
Just
question.
Study it for a week, see how it goes.
So typically, no. It's a good question, and the answer is no. And we do a lot of simulation with computer-generated models that are based on, right? It isn't real. It is a simulation that's based on a bunch of traffic algorithms and data that I am not equipped to speak to. But I'd be happy to connect you with the team that did do that. We have an expert panel of traffic engineers, designers who are working on this. The reason that a week-long implementation of something like this isn't appropriate is that it takes usually 2 to 4 weeks for traffic patterns to level out. And so implementing, oh good, Kelsey's here. Maybe we can talk about engineering a little bit more, Kenzie. It usually takes 2 to 4 weeks for traffic patterns to level out under any situation.
You also have to fix the signals to make it.
The signals have to operate.
So what Leah talked about between 9 and 11, you have to change all the signals on 21st to run that simulation for a week. This is not gonna do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why when we do those pop-ups, they typically, like the Green Loop downtown or when they did the roundabout at 9th and 9th, those things tend to sit in place for at least a month, usually a couple of months, and we test them. Okay. I'm gonna move on to the next project, which is 21st South Sewer Replacement. I've talked to you guys about this very briefly a long time ago. It was bid. The bids did not come back favorably, so it was rebid. We have a contractor underway. We expect to get their schedule next week. This is a pipe bursting project where they will dig pits and do pipe ramming underneath the ground. The sewer line is about 10 to 17 feet deep under 21st South in the center of the lane, in the center of the road. So it ranges in age between 75 and 100 years old. It has to be replaced. It is old. This is not to add capacity for new development. This is to maintain what we have, right? The projections and the flow are for what is existing, not for or in response to new development. They're looking at 2 phases. So 14th East, just east of the Dodo. So essentially the business district this fall. This says September to April, but I want you to know that that's what the contract allows them to do. They are not planning to be there for 6 months. They are planning to be there for a few months. I just don't have their schedule yet. So when we have it, we will send that out in an email update. We will send it out in a newsletter. We're going to provide that to the community council. We're going to provide it to Nate for his distribution list and maybe for our council members as well. Next year, well, essentially as early as November, they will begin on the east side. That one is a little trickier because we do have a lot of residents with driveways that front onto 21st South. So we're still working through the traffic control plan on how we maintain all the traffic and all the residents while we trench.
Question. So when they were first talking about this, they said it was possible that those side streets, those residential streets, if they find an issue there, they may have to go and do work on those residential streets. Do you know anything about that?
Usually the work on the residential streets is just a tying connection to the main. And also while they're trenching past a residential street, they will have to close it during that work. So there will be some routing and detouring as they either go up to catch the new connection or to get across, depending on the depth of the line. These are all gravity-based systems, so like they're 17 feet in the ground because that's how we get the flow to go downhill.
So are they digging them up and putting new ones, or are they they're just gonna put new ones inside the old ones?
So in phase one, the plan for sure is to pipe ram. So they're just gonna use a bore and push the new pipe through the old pipe. It's really cool. I did not ever think I was gonna be this kind of technical engineering nerd, but it is awesome, the kind of equipment and things that they can do. The intent of that is to reduce the impact to the public by not having 17-foot deep trench has to be pretty wide. So we haven't done a lot of pipe bursting in Salt Lake City, so we want to see how that goes before we implement that in the second phase. So it hasn't been decided whether they're going to do the trenching or the pipe bursting yet. They want to see how it works first. It also has a lot to do with the composition of the soils and whether the pipes can work that way. Go ahead.
I understood that the water lines also had to be replaced. And wouldn't it make sense to do everything all at once?
You would think that, yes. The budgeting doesn't allow for the water line to go at this time. So
You would have to dig it up again?
Not necessarily, they're not in the same place. So there was some exploration of the water line work while the sewer line work was happening. The funding is not there right now, and that water line is in better shape. And I don't have a time frame. Do you know, Bill? I haven't heard anything about when that might proceed. Yeah. So as we have more information on the sewer project, we will let you know about the schedule and phasing and those things. But in the interim, I think we can probably jump through. Bill gave a lot of information on Highland Drive. We have paving down. Things are moving. We'll just keep rolling through the slides. Next week, Bill mentioned that utility bores, and in early September, we're looking at the Highland Drive 21st South intersection. I will have a level map for you at some point very shortly, but it will be 21st South to one lane in each direction, no left turns at Highland Drive while they work in the intersection. It will be 24/7 work for 45 days while they get through it, because again, we're 17 feet in the ground. We've got to make room for the trench, the equipment, the safety for the workers, and still maintain one lane coming through. So park and walk and support your local businesses. It's going to be tough. They're going to coincide the sewer work with the intersection work. So while it will be painful, we're going to make sort of double time of the traffic impacts. So there'll be 2 crews working while the traffic control is up, rather than 1 crew working for 45 days and then coming back and doing another run and forth. Good news, or light at the end of the tunnel, is that we are working on curb and gutter on the south end of Highland Drive. Storm drain installation is almost complete. Our goal is to get two-way traffic reopened from Simpson to 2700 South. So we're really, really pushing hard to try to get it all the way to Wilmington, which is where the Whole Foods is. But if we can't make it, we'll at least get to Simpson, which gives you a little bit more access into the south end of Sugar House. So that's our goal for now. The intent is to have that paved before we move into the intersection at 21st and Highland. Next.
That's it.
Okay. I will say some trees were cut down in front of the liquor store. That generated a lot of chatter. I know it is a huge bummer. We do intend to replace trees. We're saving trees wherever we can. You'll notice a really big, deep gutter and curb on the east side of Highland Drive that has been installed directly to try to keep the existing trees that are there. But with the addition of the 10 to 18 foot multi-use path on the west side, the trees in front of the liquor store are in the way. They will be replaced, not in the same locations, but they will be added back. So again, one of those trade-offs. But on all of these Sugar House projects, trees are a priority. We've heard that from the community, and we are working to save the trees where they are, wherever we can. If you have any other questions, I will stick around. Thanks.
Sarah, you want to come introduce yourself? So this is District 7 City Councilwoman Sarah Young.
Hi, nice to meet many of you. My name's Sarah Young, and I am the new representative for District 7 with the Salt Lake City Council. By way of quick introduction, I have been in public service here in Salt Lake City for the past 11 years. I do work for the state school board in K-12 education, so appreciate the conversations around what's happening in Salt Lake District and the impact it has on our kids. I will say that I approach many of the conversations through the lens of what does this mean for our children, in terms of both the safety that they have, in terms of the overall community, in terms of transit, whether they're walking, riding their bikes, or eventually learning to drive like my 15-year-old is right now. So yeah, let's all do that together. In addition to that, I'll say that I'm extremely passionate about making our community the best that it can be. And one of the best ways for me to do that is to be able to hear from our residents. I do see some residents here that I have been directly working with recently related to a zoning request issue that we have had and are actively engaged in. So nice of those individuals to invite me out to their house, put me in their backyard so that we can talk about what does this mean for our community in terms of moving forward. So I am excited to be here with all of you tonight. I will be sticking around afterwards, but I just encourage all of you to reach out to me. For those of you who, when the announcement came out, the first question I think they asked me is, what do you think of the drive-through? And my response was, I haven't heard from our residents yet, and I'm not going to speak on something until I have that opportunity to hear from all of you to make sure that we're really representing that, not just a personal opinion. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to be able to represent you on the City Council. And like I said, as we continue to tackle all of the issues that we've seen this evening, my door is open, my phone is on, I'm a texter, and you're welcome to reach out to me so that we can make sure that your voices are heard as part of the overall city dialogue. So I'll stick around. Thank you guys so much. I look forward to meeting each and every one of you.
All right, Richard, come on up. Is Richard Lehman here? All right. We're running short on time, but we wanted to talk a little bit about Sugar House Park, CIP. We'll make it quick.
I'll be quick. My visuals didn't come through, but basically, I'm on the board of Sugar House Park, was appointed a year ago, April. In the last year and a half, 5 of the 9 board members have changed. Don't know if you know, the park is jointly owned by the city and county. I joke, speaking of city council people, that because we contract with the county to run it, the city people think it's a county park. And because it's in Salt Lake City, the county people think it's a city park. So neither are at the forefront of stepping up sometimes for capital funding, although Salt Lake City is much more engaged on it because we're in Salt Lake City. So we're making a late ask for funding on a CIP for 2 planning studies, one for the garden center, one for mobility within the park. Neither the city nor the county executive branch, I would argue, have invested in the board. And the board actually independently runs the park, theoretically. We defer to the pros. But they expect us to actually write the capital funding request. And because the city and county work on different fiscal years, that's always been problematic, because since the county operates the park, we've deferred to the county, and their system starts 9 months after the city. So that doesn't work. We always have funding over 2 years. It doesn't work. We figured out how to rectify that for fiscal year 25. So that doesn't help us now. So our 2 projects, one is we're asking for a planning study. And of course, we're asking for a letter of support from the council. Is a planning study to look at the garden center. The garden center is a great old building. It's almost 60 years old. It doesn't really work well for simultaneous meetings and the needs of the community in terms of programming, not just in gardening, but things like water conservation, xeriscaping, food security, all kinds of stuff, urban forestry, things that we could do if we had a better facility. And it'd probably take us 10 years to deal with it, except that in 2024, the county's going to renew the ZAP culture tax. And that means in 2025, there's a once in 8 year opportunity to get capital funding for projects. And so we're asking for this money now to do a study so we can be super well positioned to compete with all the other jurisdictions in Salt Lake County for money for Sugar House Park, for us in Sugar House, but for the city, and not just the city, but the county and the region. What we're arguing is the garden center should be thought of as a key node in a regional system of great outdoor education centers. You know, why shouldn't the garden center be as great as the Conservation Garden Park in West Jordan? So that's our goal. And we're looking, if Landon sends around the stuff I sent or that went to the Parks Committee, we have a detailed scope of work that we're proposing. And one is an advisory council committee for the study, and that would include representatives from, the council. The other study we're asking for money for is the safety and mobility study. As you know, sorry, I have a undiagnosed cough problem. So, cough drop. That's my only problem. As we've heard in a lot of the meeting before me speaking, Salt Lake is very car-oriented, and there's a desire to better balance pedestrian and bicycle movements with cars. And we do that in Sugar House Park, but we could do it better. And so this study that we're asking for money for would help us rectify the intersection where you can turn left in front of the pond, but then there's pedestrians and bicyclists also crossing that. But also from Parley's Trail in 1300 East, theoretically that sidewalk brings you down and you're supposed to cross the street. But if you're a bicyclist or a pedestrian, it's not safe. We also want to look at items like shade, the possibility of accommodating bike sharing. I'd like to have transit shelters. There aren't transit shelters on 2100 South or 1300 East. And be really cool if they were plant oriented. So basically we want to look at those items. How do we improve pedestrian and bicycle safety and accommodation? How do we expand those opportunities? And especially given climate change, how do we add shade where we can to parts of the park where people are walking and biking? So, I'm not timing myself, but anyway.
So Landon, I'd like to make
We're gonna make Chris on the committee.
a motion that we write a letter.
Okay.
That Richard write a letter for us. to
Oh,
send.
okay.
Sally wrote one too.
The post committee already submitted a letter for the garden center part, and I thought, was it Kinsey was going to do something for transportation?
Yeah, Kinsey will write something. Go ahead.
But I can help if
So you guys have-
necessary.
Can we ask 2 questions?
I was just curious, have you ever considered, it was really nice when the park was closed to
That's
cars?
one thing we put in this study, is to study the opportunity for maybe monthly weekend closure. The biggest problem, I'm really committed to civic engagement, and I think that civic assets like parks or libraries should be focal points for community involvement. Sugar House Park isn't set up that way. I hope, it's one of my goals to help broaden it. But the one problem with trying to do that is the people. We need a lot of people. We don't have any employees other than the county contracted people. So to close the whole park, the streets, and plus get an MOU with Highland so we could use their parking. Because frankly, people still drive to the park. But yeah, we heard what people in the community said, and it gave us an opportunity to incorporate that into the proposed study. Sir?
I second that 100%. The park was objectively better than it was closed. Even though there was no traffic in there were more kids, there were more people on bikes, there were more pedestrians than we've ever seen in its own
If
traffic.
it was informal, but a number of cities, including Washington where I live, but like Long Beach and Denver and Pittsburgh, they do what are called open streets events, and they're so cool. They're programmed. And ideally, we could work with groups like the council, but maybe the Sweet Streets Advocacy Group and others. It could, Green Bike, could be a really great opportunity. And I'm hoping we can make Sugar House Park, we do a great job on maintenance. Our facilities lag, and that's what we're trying to change. But it's so visible and accessible. I think we have this opportunity to demonstrate best practice for the city and the county, although the city, I think, does a pretty good job with parks. But there's still a lot of creative ideas out there that aren't being done in Salt Lake County or city. And, we have this campus, this opportunity for innovation, and hopefully as a park will become more open to the involvement of people from the community so that we have the people power to really be able to do that kind of stuff.
So we're gonna go a little bit over, because if the senator and the representative are here, they need a few minutes. So come on up, Joel Briscoe and Senator Bluen. Judy wanted me to announce that the public hearing for Sugar House Business District drive-through is Wednesday, August 8th. So we need your comments now.
Cool. Love it. Hey, everyone. I don't know if we have anything specific. I'll call out a couple things. We do have our interim legislative session next Wednesday. I think it's our legislative water development task force as well. There's clean air caucus. All sorts of good stuff going on. I would recommend, I don't have all the committee agendas in front of me because there are a couple dozen committees, but we do have public utilities, lots of good stuff on the agenda. So if you're interested in finding more out about what's going on in the legislature, next Wednesday is a good day to tune in. I'm trying to think, is there a good way to get that info out to people? Committee agendas, that sort of stuff. le.utah.gov. Great. We have one of the best legislative websites in the country, I think. So we're working on that. Earlier today, I met with the new Great Salt Lake Commissioner, Brian Steed. Really excited about his position. He's identified literally dozens of different organizations working on the Great Salt Lake, trying to map out who's doing what, looking for opportunities. Hopefully there's going to be some more important legislation because the lake is not where it needs to be. It only came up a few feet and it's already going down again. So that's top of my list. That's probably top of your list too. There's a couple other things. Better Boundaries, the redistricting initiative. Judy knows all about this one. Good news potentially from the Supreme Court hearing a couple of weeks ago. Lots of really good questions asked by the justices. We won't know for a while what the outcome is. I don't expect we're going to see legislative or congressional maps overturned, but I do think there's a good chance of potentially getting some new protections for initiatives in the future, which would protect us at the legislature from overturning the vote of the people on these initiatives in the future. So that could be something. I don't want to speculate too far, but just the way that kind of went, looks like that might be an opportunity in the future. So hopefully that's a good one. And there was recently an initiative filed to privatize the liquor system. So that might all play into each other in the future. So watch out for that. I think at the turn of the year into next year, they'll be out gathering signatures and trying to get that on the ballot, and then it'll be on the ballot, I think, in 24.
Privatize the liquor system. All I want to do is allow people to be able to order beer and have it delivered to their home. I mean, that's all I want. And I'm having a hard enough time getting that done. So on Monday, we are only a part-time legislature. On Monday, I had meetings with legislative water development. I've been reading a book they gave us about how they do water in Israel, about the size of the Wasatch Front. Half of it's desert or very arid. They have 9 million people. They have one water authority for the entire state of Israel. But then all those people came from European countries where they have unitary governments and they don't have anything like counties or cities. They have London, they have Madrid, they have Paris, they run the entire country. That's what they're used to there. But they did some interesting things in Israel in the 1950s, like passed a law saying no one could drill a well without the permission of the state. Then they passed a law saying no one could sell or distribute water without metering it. They passed another law saying you had to pay the full cost of water. Okay, so one of the things we'll be discussing in August or October will be whether or not we should take water resources, water engineer, water development, and make them one water department. I'm not sure I like that idea. We'll have some interesting discussions. On Tuesday, public health appropriations, where we discuss the public budget. On Wednesday, I'm on public utilities and revenue and taxation. There are audits and there are audits. I asked for an audit a year ago with Senator Vickers from Cedar City about how cities and counties, the Miller family says, well, we want to build a big MBA facility in downtown and we want tax increment financing. So the city and the county and the school board and the mosquito abatement district and the library board forego for 10, 20, 30 years significant percentages of their upgraded property taxes by the promise that, oh, but you'll get so much more when we're done because we're going to develop this. So I asked for an audit. Is that working? Is it really producing the jobs and the economic development? Representative Donegan is working on a bill to try and close some of the gaps and try to make that work better and protect us as taxpayers. I'm very interested in public utilities. Audits come along and you go, okay, well, that could be fixed. Every now and then you get an audit come along and it's like, oh my hell, sorry, that was on purpose. So I did one, I asked for an audit 7 or 8 years ago and it was like, the auditor came back and said the data that cities are submitting to the state for their water use is not accurate in some instances. I think it's better today because of that audit. The audit we could be discussing on Wednesday is an audit of the Office of Energy Development. And basically, and I'm meeting with auditors tomorrow at 9 a.m. Who did that if you want to come up and visit with me, the auditors at 9 in the morning. Basically, they said, no one sets energy policy in Utah. Basically, what other kinds of states, California, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington do, PacifiCorp more or less says that's what our energy policy is. My personal opinion is that Dominion and Rocky Mountain Power PacifiCorp have the energy department they want. So I'll have, if you want to get on my newsletter, come and see me, and I'll give you a report by the end of the week. Thanks for your time.
Hi guys, thanks. Meeting adjourned. Oh, there's some Sugar House bags up here if anybody needs a new bag.
Can I just make an announcement before